Hello,
This
hello.
meeting is being recorded.
We'll be in. Just a second here. How's everybody doing? You guys hear me?
Good. Yep. Yep.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. All right. How many people is it their first time on one of these calls? Jassy, it's your first time.
Yep.
Anyone else's first time?
Yeah,
Tyrone, first time.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'll break down a little bit how these calls work. This is a free sport call we do every single Monday. Pretty much we just go over whatever it is people need to work on, whatever people need support with. Sometimes that's call reviews, sometimes that is, 1 minute video reviews. Most of the time it's open Q&A. Really just depends on what people need help with. So open up the floor. Anyone that wants to ask any question or has anything that they want me to go over, feel free to go ahead and ask.
Yeah, so
Okay.
when I open up setter calls, so I'm using the script I had from RCA that you gave me before.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, how it normally goes, like I saw you responded to one of our ads about possibly starting this business, and I'm sure to reach out, see if I can help you out. Do you have a few? And a lot of people, what they'll say, oh, I'm in a meeting right now, or I'm at work, I'm busy, I can't really talk. So how would you like handle that objection and trying to get them back into the conversation?
Yeah, so you're talking about appointment setting call.
Yeah,
What's the
outbound.
context of the call? Is it cold calling outbound or is it
It's they responded
they
to it,
opted in?
opted into
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, usually in those cases, what I do is I kind of agree with it, but then I just get one more piece of information. So I might say like, cool, no problem. I've got a meeting in a minute here too. And then I ask a question. And that question might be, what interested you in opting in, or what were you looking for when you opted into XYZ? I would just utilize the context of where that lead came from. And usually from there, they'll say, oh, I was just this. And I can either do one of two things. I can either use that to continue the conversation,
Mhm.
or I can use that as a leverage point to schedule a call in with them for another time.
Yeah.
Typically, if someone is actually busy, they got to go, they'll usually say, hey, I did it because of these reasons. I am interested, but I do have to run. Or they were just saying that just to say that, and the conversation just continues from there.
Yeah.
Um, Most people that are truly super, super busy don't pick up the phone at all.
Mhm.
So it's always good to have that one extra layer to check. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome. Daniel, I saw you had your hand up there, man. What's up?
Hey Ty, good to see you, man. Um,
See you too.
wanted to ask about what do you think would be the best for phoning up numbers, US numbers? Like I told you on a message, like because I'm scraping owners' phone numbers as well, and I want to get rolling with an offer like
Oh, am I the only one that lost him?
uh,
Is he glitching for you guys too?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if he ever comes back, we can get to that. Anyone else have any questions while he's loading?
yeah, it's kind of lagging now. Can you hear me now?
Are you back? Yeah, I can hear you. Were you asking, because you were DMing before, are you asking like what the best like software to dial is? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
because the thing is, when I message now, I message via WhatsApp, and then they
Hmm.
clearly don't read it because nobody in the US uses WhatsApp, or very few, right? But if I can get something that allows me to send like a voice note or a message through iMessage, or and
Hmm.
so call them,
Yeah.
that'd be really good, because then my
So
reply rate will go higher.
there's obviously tons and tons of different softwares you can use. The best tool to find what the perfect software for you is honestly ChatGPT. Like you can say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is the functions I want it to have. Give me the most affordable or give me the cheapest options that meet this criteria. And it'll literally list you the pros and cons of all the best dialing software. And then you just pick one based on what it says.
Uh,
That's the best one. Like I can say, because like I can give you the ones I'm familiar with, but you probably have different use cases than what I've had. Like the one I'm most familiar with is like Close.io, Alloware. But Alloware, usually for bigger teams, bigger sales teams, if it's just like solo guy, solo dials, Close is probably a good one, but Close doesn't have that. Like you can get actual Close. A good thing about Close is you can, it's like if you're solo, it's like $50 a month or something. No, 30, $40 a month Canadian. So if you're talking USD, probably like 30 or something like that. And you pick one number, a US number, and then you can make your dials off that. But maybe there's even better ones. So I would check out Close, and then I would also chat GPT like what all the best ones are for what you're looking for and see what comes up.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that was the main thing. And basically, when I call them, just like be straightforward, like, hey, really like XYZ about your business.
You're calling
Um,
for jobs, right?
yeah,
Like you're trying to
exactly.
land a role by cold
Yeah,
calling them. So
yeah.
so you can get straight to the point. You don't need to like fluff it up with like really like your business. You can just say, if you have the person that you're calling to, it's different obviously if you're calling a different number. But I would just call the business and I would say, hey, saw you guys had a job opening for XYZ position. Who can I talk to that's responsible for that team? I wanted to inquire about, or I wanted to inquire about joining the team. Who could I talk to that's responsible? And usually they'll point you in the direction of the person that would actually be responsible for managing the team or doing the hiring or something like that.
But what if there was no job opening? What if it's just like a company I want to work with?
Pretty much would be the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, saw then you can add some of the stuff you said. Hey, saw your company supports people in this way. I think that like I'm really sold on that vision, or I really love the transformations you guys provide, depending on obviously what the offer is. I think I'd be a great asset to the team. Who could I speak to in regards to being a part of the sales team as a closer, as an appointment setter, or whatever? Who could I send information to? And usually they'll say, well, this person's a sales manager, or well, this person's that. And then you can either get their number or you can get their contact details in some other form, whether it's email, LinkedIn, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. All right. That was pretty much it. And I did already almost land an interview from scraping an email, so that was pretty awesome idea. So
Awesome.
go on.
Awesome. Glad it helped. Glad it helped. Brian, what's up, man?
Hey, Ty, how you doing, bud?
Good, good.
All right, so I mean, I'm kind of new to this platform, so hello, everyone. What I am doing is I'm looking for a role, but I think I'm a little bit of the oddball out there as I have been a financial advisor for over 20 years.
Mhm.
And I am actually looking to completely exit the space entirely and sell off my practice. But because I've been dealing with some families and some clients for literally 20 years, I can't just walk away from them. So I know I need to find something that's kind of part-time where I can transition from, and know that it can work before I can kind of just pull that cord and walk off. But I've been having a really hard time finding solid roles that actually will accept part-time. Any
Mhm.
advice on that?
When you
When I say
say,
part-time, I'm offering like literally Saturday and Sunday, 8 hours a day, and then Monday through Friday, like 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm not like doing 6 hours a week. I'm giving some serious hours, but it's hard to
Mhm.
find roles that late at night that want Eastern hours.
When you say hard to find, are you saying you're getting on interviews, you're talking to them, and they're like, no, we don't want that? Or are you saying I'm looking at the job post and it just says full time, and so I skip over it?
Well, a lot of times it does say full time, and I understand if you don't ask, you don't get. But I have been on several interviews where it has been, you sound great, love you, great resume, great background, awesome, you got the skills, but we need full time. I need someone who's
Mhm.
going to be able to do Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We have team meetings every day. We've got like, group hugs at 1 p.m. every day, that sort of thing. So it's kind of hard to overcome that.
Yeah, so one thing that's going to be difficult is working with a bigger team where there's a little bit more of a solid structure. And like you said, they want to have the team meetings and all that stuff in place. That being said, you're going to have a good time working with a lot of solopreneurs who are, they're making great money. And maybe it's just them and one setter or them and one closer. Maybe they have great marketing in place and you can come in and like I've been on offers where there was no meetings at all. It was just kind of we message each other back and forth on WhatsApp, and I gave them an update on where I was at and stuff, right? And that company was doing 60, 70 grand a month. I was getting 20% commission. So there's lots of opportunities like that. If you're looking for like, I want to be on a team where there's 10 guys plus, big company, all that stuff, it's going to be a little bit harder. One thing I would avoid doing at all costs on interviews is mentioning part-time versus full-time, because realistically there is no, if we're talking about the high ticket closer role, there is no like official full-time part-time. It's really just what are the hours of availability do you have, and are they in alignment with the hours that we want? Like, do we want to slot those hours with calls, right? Or can we slot those hours with calls based off of our leads and where our leads are at? A lot of offers, especially B2C offers, where they're selling to customers and not other business owners, a lot of people get off work at 5 p.m. and they can only take calls at 6, 7, 8. So a lot of times you can negotiate with the business owners, hey, let me take calls, because a lot of closers, sometimes they don't want to be on the phone after 6 o'clock. So I've had closers that are just on my team before where they only did those evening calls and got on with those kinds of people. Not every single company that is necessarily putting out job posts will want to hire for that right then and there. But where you will find success is reaching out to people that maybe aren't posting, hey, we're hiring, but maybe they just have a team and they're already functioning, and they're willing to bring on someone that could take some of those calls as long as you're profitable. Most business owners, if you can prove that you be profitable, they're willing to take you on at whatever amount of calls that you have. So in your case, what I would do is I would start targeting companies directly, or just targeting like influencers directly and reaching out to them, and having that conversation about, and I would save the like full-time, part-time until after you guys already spoken and saw that you're a good fit for each other, and after you get the offer. And even when they say, what's your availability? I wouldn't say I'm available part-time, because there's a lot of preconceived things that people immediately assume as soon as you say part-time. I would just say, these are my hours of availability. Can we stock that up? Does that make sense?
It does, which makes me want to change my profile video now. So I have I have that word in there.
Yeah,
But I
update it.
thought that had some value also, but it hasn't turned out that way. So I'll definitely change up the wording in the video. Cool.
And I would primarily, unless you're totally sick of these conversations, I would primarily look for financial offers. There's tons of companies that like help people with budgeting. There's like, we help accountants scale their business. Like, there's tons of financial offers that you have probably tons of, parallel knowledge and skill to, that you can jump on and say, hey, not only do I have sales skill and sales experience, but I also know accounting, or I know finance like the back of my hand. So those opportunities are going to be a lot easier for you to land than opposed to reaching out to like a real estate offer or something like that. Does that make sense?
I got it.
So I would
Yeah,
find
thank
like some top financial, like finance influencers, and I would just reach out to them directly, and see if you can work for them.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that.
No problem. Anyone else got questions? I know, Daniel, you got your hand up.
Yeah, so I had a question about an interview I had last week.
Mhm.
So the guy, when I did the one-on-one, he said, he asked me about my experience. I told him what I did. It was a BizOp offer, so YouTube automation, this kind of stuff. And then my experience wasn't really aligned with working with businesses before. Like, I worked very little with like BizOp. I've worked more in B2C, right? But that's where I want to go. I want to go in BizOp, like mostly right now. But like the guy was like, yeah, it doesn't seem like you've got any experience with BizOp. From what it says. So leave it to me. I'll follow up and I'll give you an answer. But it already sounded like it turned him off that I didn't have any BizOp experience. So would have there been something I could have said in that situation? Or what could I
Yeah,
have?
so what I would do is I would lean in with my understanding of the niche, if you have any. If not, I would do both. I would really lean in also to my passion and conviction for the offer itself. I'll tell you a super quick story. I had one person I was working with, and they had a program that they were going to join. They were following this influencer. I think it was like helping people like write and publish books, right? And he was saving up to join that program in the future. And he had followed that influencer for a while. He loved what they did. He loved the testimonials, all that stuff. Then he actually ended up doing an interview for a closing position with that company. And he had never had a sales job before. So this was his first role ever, no experience selling the thing, no experience selling at all. And when he was in that interview, he was obviously nervous, all that stuff. And he just spoke about the offer and how much he believed in it and how much he like followed the influencer and enjoyed what he did and knew that it was helpful. And how he would love to help enroll people into that process because he knows it works and because he's followed him for a while. He made it to the second round, and the second round was a mock call. And he did the mock call, and he said he did okay on it. And then he got a call back from the company afterwards, and they said, "Hey, listen, that role play that you did in your interview, it was kind of like a 6 out of 10. We interviewed other people who were much better, but we still want to give you the role because I'd rather hire someone with conviction for what we do over someone who has more skill, but is just there to just pick up another gig and just pick up another paycheck, or it's just another gig to them." Right? So a lot of these companies, and the hardest thing to, like, you can't teach someone conviction. They have to just go and get it on their own. You can't teach someone a desire to see people win. So if I didn't have any experience, I would lean heavily on how much I believe in the transformations that company provides and how important I think it is. Because if they can see the conviction oozing off of you, they're going to say, you know what, if he pours this same type of conviction on these sales calls, that's a huge chunk of sales. Sales is a transfer of feeling, it's a transfer of belief. So if you could just come in with a lot of belief for what they're doing, even without the experience, a lot of these business owners will still be willing to bring you on board. I would much rather hire someone who's a little bit worse at like the specific technicalities of handling XYZ objection, if they just have massive conviction, than someone who's like, I've got all the thing down, but they just approach the calls robotically. And it's like, I'm just selling another thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know, like I don't know if it was like I don't know what it was, but if you were just like, hey man, I see that you help people start Airbnb. I think that's so important. I would love to help people get into Airbnb. I'm actually, I think Airbnb is an awesome company. I think it's an awesome avenue for people. I don't know what the offer was, or if it's fitness, it's like, you know what? I think being in shape is so important. I think helping people do that is just life changing. And I would really love to be a part of a company that helps people see those transformations. Adding that in with everything else, massive difference, massive difference than someone who's just like, yeah, I believe I can sell. I have conviction that I'll do well here, and just answering the questions without any type of oomph behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. But then like he was more like in the idea that because I didn't have maybe the technical skill because I've never done it before or something like that. So I see the passion makes sense, right? The conviction sells, but maybe the fact that I can easily transfer those skills into what they're selling as well. I mean, it's not
Well,
like
if you sold, right? Like, if I sell different B2B offers, I'm going to sell pretty much the same way, other than like the pitch is the only part that's really going to be different depending on obviously the offer. But it's like, you're not going to go from one B2B offer to another B2B offer, or even B2B to B2C, and none of your sales skill is transferable. It's almost all going to be transferable, right? So I would, assure him of that, or maybe, I mean, everyone, that's the one thing. It's like, these are my opinions too, so keep that in mind. If his opinion is that if you don't have a specific exact experience selling to my exact audience, then it's not going to work. There's nothing I can do to change that. I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong, but
yeah,
every business owner can have their own reasons. I can only tell you what I think would be good or look good.
sure, yeah. Okay. Well, that helps. Yeah, that's it for me right now.
Cool. Before we get into your Jassy, I just saw a thing in the chat. Daniel, you said Closer College, is there a script and framework in there? Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you join Closer College, scripts, frameworks, all that stuff. We do 2 extra calls like these a week. They're obviously a bit smaller. So we spend a little bit more time on call reviews and stuff like that. But yeah, that's all in there. Bessie, you had a question, man? What's up?
Yeah. So I'm on a biz op offer right now. And normally when when I first get what they're doing right now, like they're working a job for, let's say, like 4 years, and ask them, what's kind of going on that has you looking at other opportunities. Most of the time people will give their problems, but some people they'll be a little bit more vague, like, I just want to make more income, which isn't like, it's not really a problem, right? So how would you probe on that? Because normally what I do is I just ask them like, oh, so is your current job just not paying you enough? So like, how would you probe a little bit deeper from there? Or would you even ask them
Yeah.
a question?
Well, yeah, you never assume, right?
Yeah.
Your favorite question as a closer is going to be some variation of what do you mean by that, right? And you're just like literally, you could spend the first 20 minutes of call just being like, what do you mean? Over and over and over again, and you're going to get to the bottom of the problem just simply doing that, right? You're just that's really all you're going to do is you're going to filter down and narrow it down by picking something that they just said and then asking for clarification. And when you ask for clarification, they're going to give it, and then they might give you another spiel, and then you pick something out of that sentence and ask for clarification to get even deeper into it. So it's like, I don't make enough money. Tell me a little bit about that. Well, I don't make enough money because of this, that. Oh, okay. Well, tell me a little bit about that, right? And you're not going to say the same words. You're going to ask a variation of it, but it's going to always be seeking more clarification on the last thing they just said. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Never allow yourself to be pushed through the process without actually getting that clarification. Don't accept fluffy answers that don't actually, like, if they don't answer your question, you have to ask it again in a different way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sweet. Not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. Is it New Face? Is that how, did I say it right? Awesome. What's up, man?
Yeah. So I currently work for 2 offers right now. So it's basically one of them is helping realtors getting more listings. And the other offer is I work for a web design agency. So we offer websites to people who don't have a website. So myself in the face again. You got it perfectly, by the way. People don't get the name perfectly. You know, they kind of get it the wrong pronunciation, but it was on spot on. So I have 2 questions. Yeah, my first question is that we're usually going by closing. So this is the framework I kind of go through. So it's the closer framework, which Alex Hormozy famously mentioned. I don't know if he created it, but it's a framework I go through. And usually, like when it's about like when you work with influencers or whatever, and they like selling a biz op or like courses and stuff, closing that framework kind of works more. But then when I try to do that in the web design space, it kind of I'm kind of confused on how you would go on an actual web design call where you're actually selling them a website and how you'd actually go through the process of that. That's my first question. I'll get to the second one.
So are you saying how would you go through like Alex Hormozy's specific way of selling on a web design offer?
Yeah, I tried that, but
what is making you say it's not working? Like what's the struggle with going through it?
I'm not saying it's working. I'm just saying that there's something I feel like it doesn't, the transition from the initial report building and trying to get to them and then to the offer is kind of not connecting when I try this. So if you were on an offer like this, where you're trying to help businesses get a website, like the offer is 3K. So how would you go about it in a call? Like the framework of the call, how would you go about it?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty much the same as I would go about almost any call. The only difference when I'm selling something that's B2B rather than like B2C biz op or something like that, or like a fitness or relationship dating offer, the only real difference is how much you have to earn the emotional kind of aspect of the call. Like I'm not going to be on with a business owner and be like, how does that make you feel? You know? Because it's probably not going to hit the same unless they go there first. But every single call is going to stem following the same framework, and you can swap these around, but every call has to have a section where you figure out what the problem is, what the goals are, what the solutions are that they've tried to solve that problem, gain commitment, whether that's through asking about their timeline, asking about if they're ready to get help with that now, or some people like to ask consequence questions where they're saying like, what happens if you don't achieve XYZ, and then doing a transition into the pitch and then handling any objections. Those are the things I'll always hit on every single call, no matter what. Sometimes on offers, it makes more sense to go goals first. Sometimes it makes more sense to go problems first. I'm personally just a fan of always doing problems first. But when it comes to like a web design offer, I'm not going to focus so much on the web design aspect of it, rather the why they want a website. If like, again, if it's someone that's building, like they don't have a website, it's like why they want a website, what are they actually trying to achieve with it? If it's someone who wants a different design, it could be what outcomes, it's all about the outcomes. Like what outcomes are they trying to get through the change of the design of their website? I don't know if you guys are niched down and you specifically say like we help you with your conversion rate, or we just help you design a nice looking website, or do you guys work with any specific type of businesses? Like we only work with, commercial whatever companies, like, you know what I mean? Like, is there a specific niche, or is it we make websites for anyone that needs one?
No, we work with interior designers, so based in the US. So we work with interior designers, and we not only just a website, but also additional services like SEO and even maintenance, like for free if the site invests with us.
And what is happening on the calls that you don't want to be happening, or what do you think is missing on these calls that's making you feel like, hey, maybe this framework that I'm going through isn't working?
Yeah, and the thing is, as you said, like B2C, it's more of you can go through an emotional journey and you can just ride them through emotions. For B2B, usually I feel like it should be more about numbers, facts, and like go about it more rationally. So business owners usually love numbers, and if they get if they get an opportunity to see a higher number in their bank account, then they would love that. So kind of riding them through an emotional journey is a bit more difficult on B2B, which I think I'm actually completely new to closing. It just got very recently. So I'll get to that. But yeah, this is the fact. I'm kind of confused. I'm trying to figure it out.
But yeah, but what's not working? So like you're obviously taking calls now. Why do you like, what's wrong with doing things the way you're doing it? What is not working?
It's just I'm good with the emotional side, but it's just I kind of get confused how to get them rationally on my viewpoint, my worldview. So that's something I'm very confused about.
What's the outcome you're seeing? Are you pitching and they're saying
so
this isn't worth it, or?
So there was like 3 calls I took, and I fumbled 2 of them, and it's obviously on me. But those 2 I fumbled, I went and reanalyzed again and again, and what I realized is that I tried to help them. Help them. How do I say this? But I tried to overcome their emotional side, like kind of get them through an emotional journey. But then I realized that isn't really working with B2B. So,
well, when you say fumble, what do you mean?
Fumble, like kind of couldn't connect my initial problems and the introduction, problem solving, and all that to the pitch. The transition part, I kind of feel like I kind of fumbled there. Maybe like a few specific sentences I could have done better.
Why do you say that though? What was their response?
Because they seemed warm all along until I went to the pitch and the price.
Okay, so as soon as you got to the point where you're about to pitch and drop the price, that's where they kind of said, like they kind of switched their tune?
Yeah, and I also handled some objections, kind of sold them the exit. I'm like, okay, they need to think about it, blah blah, they're doubtful. So I was just like, yeah, cool. I'll just call you in 1 or 2 months and blah blah. And then after that, I'm like, okay, what can I put in an email that you're actually confused about? Is it the price? Is it the service? Is it actually more about whether you believe it works or not?
Well,
And then
you've only taken
to-
3 calls, right? So in what way did their energy shift when you got to the pitch that makes you feel like, hey, I shouldn't be transitioning this way, or this didn't go well? Well, how, in what way did they switch?
So it's like, yeah, they were opening up completely, and then when I go, they were so super like open and warm and all that. And when I transitioned into the pitch, it's like, okay, I need to think about it. Well, the objections come up very quick, and it's not like I didn't expect it, because as any salesman or any closer should, like it is just like a part of the process. If they're just gonna buy it. So
How do you
that's the
transition?
So
What does yours
last
look
time
like?
I just went from, yeah, that's cool. That's something we can completely help you with. So this is how it went. So that's something we can completely help you with. They're like, they told like how they would like to be found on the internet and all that. And yeah, I was like, yeah, that's something we can completely help you with. And I just pulled up, I just shared my screen, and I showed them that, yeah, here's our offer, and here's what we do. And they're like, yeah, I think probably could have been my tonality. That's what I'm thinking, but I don't know if it's completely that.
I don't think so. You go from, you just finished talking about their goals, and you say, hey, this is what we can help with, and start pitching. Is
Yeah,
that
after
what you do?
if after I complete what they're struggling with, and after I kind of get the information on what they want to go, yes, and that's what I do.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, personally, I believe that maybe, I haven't listened to your calls, but maybe like the transition just sounds really abrupt, right? You're
Okay.
going from this place of, let me understand your problems, let me understand your goals. Okay, cool, ready for the pitch, right? And it's like, it's this hard wall where you just go, maybe you do discovery really well, but then you just go into sales guy mode, and you start saying, here's what we offer. So there's two things I would want to look at if I could. It would be how you transition specifically and how you pitch. And I'll let you know my thought process on how to transition in a way that's not awkward and it feels natural. And people are usually way more receptive to the pitch when you do it this way. So after you go through everything in your discovery, everyone has their own opinions on that. I'll finish it off by saying something like, okay, cool. I feel like I have all the information I need. Is there anything else you feel like I need to know? And usually they'll either say no, or they'll tell me more things, right? And if they say no, I'll be like, awesome, Nufais, can I give you my opinion on the situation here? They'll say yes. And then I will give them my opinion. Now, this is not the pitch. This, like, I literally spend a few minutes here in the transitionary period by doing this. So I'll ask those two questions. Then when I'm giving my opinion, I'll either do some kind of story, or I'll tell them what I think they need, and I get their agreement, right? So, for example, I might say, in face, can I give you my opinion? They say yes. I say, awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys have these things going for you. I'll say some positives about what they got. Sounds like you guys got these things going for you. What you really need is X, and usually X is what we provide, right? I won't say, well, you need us. I'll say you need XYZ. And if you can get XYZ, I think goal will be really achievable for you. So, for example, let's say I'm doing a marketing thing and someone's like, they came because they want to make more sales, and I am a marketing agency, and we're talking to them, and I find out that they have a really great offer, and they have a great sales team, but their marketing and how they manage their campaigns is garbage, and that's holding them back from, let's say they want to hit 100K a month or 2x their revenue, right? So I might say something like, hey, Nufais, just going through everything, it sounds like you guys have a really good offer. Sounds like when you are able to get people on the call, they're super clear on what it is you guys help with, and then your sales team with this close rate, they're doing a pretty good job at closing up those deals, but the way you're managing your budget, the way you're doing your marketing, it's not the best. I think what you need to do is properly implement whatever scale tests or XYZ. And I think once you plug that in, your revenue numbers or your cost per call or whatever will go down to this. You book XYZ extra amount of calls, and with that close rate, dude, 100K a month is going to be a breeze for you guys. And then I'll finish it off with, what do you think? And the reason why I do that is because I want them to be in agreement. We need to come together and be in agreement on what we are trying to solve here, right? We just went through this whole discovery, and typically what people want is, I want to pay you guys to help me solve my number one biggest problem that will unlock my goal, my desire, will get me there. So I want us to come into agreement first before I pitch. Because if I don't, then I don't know if I'm necessarily pitching to the exact thing that they want. So I'm going to say, hey, I think this is what you need. And if you have it, your goal should be achieved. What do you think? And if I did this right, if I listened properly throughout the call, their response should be like, yeah, you know what, Ty, if I had that 100%, I'm in agreement with you. We'd hit our goal. We definitely hit it. Then I'll say, and I love, like, my ideology for selling is it's always like, well, in that case selling, right? It's like everything needs to line up in a way that the next step is the obvious choice, right? So me offering that thing that they just agreed that they need to hit their goal, I'm going to say, awesome. Well, Nufaisal, in that case, I mean, I could walk you through A to Z what it looks like for us to work together to plug that in if you'd like, but let me know. And they'll say, yeah, walk me through. What does that look like? So now they're telling me to pitch them instead of me just being like, hey, by the way, let's start pitching. They're asking me if I could pitch, right? So I'm just going to say, hey, it sounds like you need this. And if you had it, like, can I give you my thoughts? Sure. Sounds like you really need this because you have all these things in place. And if you had it, hitting your goal, dude, you'd crush it. What do you think? Yeah, I agree. Cool. Well, I mean, that's what we specialize in, man. I could walk you through A to Z what it might look like for us to work together to get that done. Is that something you'd want to go through? Sure. Tell me, what do you guys got? Awesome, man. Well, and then I'm gonna start my pitch. Well, really, there's three things we're gonna need to do together in order to get you to XYZ goal. And the first thing is, then I'm gonna walk them through the three pillars of how we help them get to their goal. And I'm not gonna pitch, and like we can talk more after about like what the pitch actually looks like, but I'm not gonna pitch features like we do this and this and this, and this is what our company does. I'm gonna say, this is the steps that we are going to take, step 1, step 2, step 3. And by the end of it, you should achieve XYZ goal. And the steps, if you want to think of it like you have a bridge, and the one side of the bridge is where they're trying to go. The beginning of the bridge is where they're at. And the steps that I'm listing here are like the pillars, right? Like when I pitch the first step, it should seem like I'm quarter way there, right? Or I'm, 1/3 the way there. Then I pitch the second step. It's like, okay, now we're 2/3 the way there. And then this last step should be like, okay, well, once we complete that, we're there, right? That's, forgetting the pitch for a second, that's how I would do my transitions. And whenever I've done that, there's no awkwardness when it came to the pitch. They're open, they're listening, they're attentive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions on that before we move on here?
No, that was completely clear on that side. I just have one last question. Yeah, is that okay for anybody?
Yeah. Go
Okay,
ahead quick and then we'll.
So I'm a total beginner. Yeah. So as I said, I just took 3 calls so far, and I'm also getting this realtor thing on the side, and I have like 3 meetings booked tomorrow. It's people I know, so they give me this opportunity. I'm kind of grateful. So what is your best tips on pre-objection handling, and also generally the best tips for someone who's getting into the close role and get their percentages of closing rate higher?
You said like best steps for when you're jumping on a new role?
Yeah, so basically I have just gotten into this closing space very recently. So what is your best tips for a beginner who's got into the space to actually improve very quick and very efficiently? And the second part was how do you bring up pre-handling objections? How do you pre-handle objections?
Well, I'll answer the first one, and I'll say the first thing you want to do if you're jumping on a role as a closer. I mean, obviously improving as a closer, there's a few things you could do, but when it comes to jumping on your first role, the first thing you want to do is grow that conviction, right? So if it's a good company, I'm going to just immerse myself in all of the testimonials, all of the case studies, because I want to get on that offer. And if I have nothing else, I want to get on there believing that as long as someone has the problem that we solve, we can 100% help them. And if you can get on calls with a strong conviction, which you shouldn't work with the company if the company's not offering something good. Like if they're not selling something good, don't sell for them. But you should be able to get on that call and you're like, this, maybe it's not the best thing in the world, but this is a really good offer. And if I can establish that we can help you, I have massive conviction that we can. I'll also see who the top performer is, whether it's the business owner, top closer, whoever. And what a lot of people do, they go wrong, is they listen to a lot of their own calls to try to pick it apart. When your brain learns a lot by just absorbing and soaking up whatever you give it, whether it's good, whether it's bad. So one way that you can really train yourself is just listening to what's good, because that trains your subconscious to do more of it, right? A lot of times on sales calls, you default to basic. Like, you can study for a test, you can do all you can read objections all you want, how to handle this, how to handle that. You can watch all the videos in the world, but your brain is just gonna default to whatever it remembers when you're in that moment. Your cortisol is high, your heart's beating fast, and when your mind just goes blank on a call, you're like, what do I say? You're just going to go to default, and you can train what that default is by just listening to what's good over and over and over again. So find the top person on that team and just listen to it. Like, you don't have to take notes every second. Just while you're at the gym, go for a walk throughout your day, just listen to it over and over again. I found that when I did that, I would be on a call and I'd get an objection, and then I noticed that I started answering it or handling the objection the exact same way the top person did, just because, and I didn't even think about it. It was just the first thing that came to mind, because that's what I fed my brain over and over and over again. So I would do that. And then obviously the stories, the case studies, testimonials, so you can use those stories on those calls if you know them like the back of your hand. If you've got like 10 stories of wins and you can relate people to those people. So I would immerse myself with stories. I would listen to good calls way more than I listen to bad calls. Each week, I would focus on only fixing one thing at a time. Don't try to fix like 10 things in your next call. It's just not going to work. Fix one thing at a time, role play it out, rep it out. Again, you can listen to someone doing it well, but you're only really going to be able to make massive improvements on one or two things a week. So one thing at a time. When I first get into a role, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit massive volume. The skill might not be there, but you can outperform the skill with volume, and also doing volume is what creates the skill. And what happens is eventually the numbers start to come in your favor with the volume as your skill improves. So I start off high volume. Maybe I'm an appointment setter and I get like one set every 100 calls. And then as my skill improves, I'm going to get 2 sets every 100 calls, and 3 sets every 100 calls, and 4 sets. And that number is just going to come closer and closer in your favor as the skill comes. So I'm just going to hit massive volume to start, and then track everything so that you can reverse engineer your paycheck. And you'll know exactly what it takes to achieve the commissions that you want to achieve. Whether, like, you want to know exactly, if you're a setter, how many dials per set, how many dials per show, per close, how much cents I make every single dial, right? Like, look at your commission, look at all the dials it took to create that commission, and divide the number up, and you'll know, oh, I make $1 per dial. Then the motivation to dial is gonna show up, right? And then as a closer, obviously track all those numbers and reverse engineer. So I'll say, when you're jumping on an offer, your first offer, those are the things you're going to want to do right off the bat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on here, because I know the hands are coming up. Joseph, you had a quick question, man?
Yep. Question about how do you have an upcoming interview, and how do you ask questions about compensation, like getting more details about it, as far as like things that come to mind is it bi-weekly? Is it monthly? Another question I think of is what is, if it's appointment setting, is it pay per appointment? How much is it? How do you go about
I wouldn't ask that until I got the offer. I wouldn't ask those details until I was actually offered the position, because it's just, until you get the offer, it's not necessary to spend so much time on all those details. And usually they'll tell you a lot of that stuff. Like, especially on a first interview, maybe if it's like the second interview and you're already asking about like their marketing and stuff like that, then you can slide some of those questions in there. But I would wait till I pass a couple rounds first, because I don't want to give off the impression that the interviewer, whoever it is like, oh, this guy's just focused on getting a paycheck or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to give off that impression. So I'm not going to ask that until we get to the end or until they say, hey, we want to offer you the position. These are the details. If there's any other questions, then go there. I'm a big fan of collecting the offer, collecting the offers, and then negotiating from there or having the conversation from there or accepting if you like everything and everything's good to go, from there. That makes
What if
sense?
they're trying to make you accept the offer on the spot? Like, okay, yeah, when can you start? And
Well,
you're
if you
like,
have questions, if they're making you an offer, then you ask questions that you have. And if you don't want to accept it, then you don't, or you
so
tell
how do
them,
you
hey, I'm
how would you
considering other places.
okay, so let's say the interview is like 30 minutes. At the end of the interview, they're like, yeah, so we think you'd be a good fit. When can you start? What's your response when you don't have enough information? You're like, there's certain things that maybe in your head that may feel like red flags, and you're like, but you don't want to.
But just ask them about it. Ask them.
Okay, is there a way to do it with tact as far as to not rub them the wrong way? Like,
Well, I
yeah,
mean,
I
why
need
would
some
it?
time to
Why
think
would?
of.
Well, needing time to think about it, and having questions are two different things. You know what I mean? It's like if you have questions, just ask them. I mean, there's no problem. Like, you know, there's no. I'm not gonna say there's no bad way to ask, but I mean, you could just be blunt. So if I'm on a call and like, hey, we want to offer you the position, I'll be like, awesome. I do have a few questions before I accept, just to make sure we're on the same page. Sound good? Cool. And then ask your questions.
Okay, so I did do that, and this was like a interview I did like last Thursday,
Hmm.
and they're like, okay, so when can you start? And I was like, yeah, I just have a couple questions. I believe the questions I had was like, are there any other setters on the team? And they were like, nope, you're gonna be the first one. And then
Hmm.
I think I asked how long was the business open, or how long they had been in business. It was like under a year.
Hmm.
And then I asked them about compensation. What's the compensation? They're like, yeah, we'll send those details to you in the email. So um, I didn't move forward, needless to say, because it was just like, I wish you'd kind of be upfront with me about telling me some of these things, But you're gonna send it to me via email. It's like, but
Well, did you wait to see the email?
they didn't send it. I mean, they
Oh, because
kind
you
of
denied
like.
it there? Like you denied it right on the spot because they said we'll send it in an email?
No, they basically at that point it was two business partners. I interviewed with the first business partner, and he was one that kind of offered me the position. But when he saw me asking a bunch of questions, that's when he's like, "Let me get my other business partner on the call." And then I had to do another interview with him and his other business partner. I guess maybe they were. It was just weird. Like it was like, okay, why are you making me go through these questions again? And then at the same time, you're now like doing a more like almost like saying like why are you even one of the things that came up was why are you asking me these questions? I get that sometimes a lot. Like if I ask like things about for compensation or how many closers or how long the business has been in, like I get more specific, they start some I feel like the people that have red
Brian
flags
said it,
they
man. Brian said, I mean, if they feel a way about the questions, it's probably not somewhere you should be working anyway.
yeah, exactly. That's how I was like I didn't feel bad afterwards. I was like because I was like
Well,
that's
I
kind of
mean,
weird.
it's like imagine if you're on a sales call and you wanted to ask about the program and the closer was like, why are you asking me these questions? It's like if you got nothing to hide, if you got a good product, if you got a good service, you're open to like if the closer's selling something good, he'll say, "Hey, any questions before we move forward?" If anyone is trying to hide or not get questions asked, then obviously it's probably not the best thing, especially something like compensation. It's like, well, you're hired, being hired to do a service, right? So I mean, I wouldn't sweat over it. I wouldn't be like, oh man, I missed a good opportunity. Like you
Mhm.
didn't, you know. It's fine. Just move on.
That's
Cool.
all the questions I had.
Carlos, what's up, man?
Yo, so yeah, I mean, I just got into a setting role like about 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I also just got my first PIP today, by the way. Bro, it's like you really just gotta go and do it. I was overthinking for like months, and I just said, fuck it, I'm just gonna go and do it. and stuff just started panning out. But I was gonna ask, oh yeah, so when we're in the setting call and we want to get deep into pain, like I know we're not supposed to get too deep because that's for the
Hmm.
closer, but how would you recommend us to like get them to like actually want to get on that call? Like on the closing call, like so the show up rate is actually high. Because that's my main, I'm trying to focus on that super.
Mm. So the best thing, like when it comes to showing up to the next call, you have to pitch the value of the next call. Like, why are they getting on the next call? If I were to ask you for the offer that you're selling, well, what do they get for getting on
Well, I mean they get I mean they get like just the mentorship itself, like just a little more details on it. I mean, it is the closing call, but I do frame it as like, yeah, like this guy, like he's gonna get you in and I mean not get you in, but he's gonna show you a little more about the mentorship itself. One thing I do as well is like, but like this is a call where it's like we want people who are 100% serious. So like, I mean, if you can't show up, like I don't even want to like, I don't say I don't even want to book you, but I kind of get them to like justify themselves to me at the end, and they do, and then
it? You
yeah,
see how you're like skipping so far ahead? Like, this is supposed to be a call where we have a conversation. You
mm,
figure out what my problem is, what my goals are, what my timeline is,
yeah,
and based on that conversation, if I'm a good fit, then you'll recommend me the not even if they're a good fit. Based on the conversation, a good closer will recommend the best thing to do. Sometimes that's going to be to buy the program or whatever you're selling. Sometimes that's going to be to do something else, right? But you're telling people on the triage call, like, I'm only going to book you on the call if you're ready to skip that whole process. Like, you
uh,
know what I mean? You're pretty
yeah,
much
no,
saying, like, we only want people that are serious and ready to do this, or
mm,
you know what I mean? Like, when I said what's the value of the call, you mentioned the sale. You said to join the program, to learn about,
mm.
rather than the value of a sales call is clarity, right? A
Oh
good
yeah,
closer is going to give them clarity on their situation. Whether, and again, sometimes the advice is going to be to move forward. Sometimes it's not going to be. You know what I mean?
no, 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 yeah. I mean, no, I didn't mean to say it in that sort of way. I
Hmm.
definitely go through them and then like I actually am there with them, like, and I help them out and like get a little more clarity on their situation. And yeah, I do tell them like the next fall. Like I'm saying, like when I get towards the end, that's when I tell them if like
Yeah.
they are
But when you
actually
say, so when you're setting up the call with the closer, what are you telling them going to happen next? What are the next steps?
so I'm like, yeah, so this next call is just gonna have like a little more, clarity on your situation. Obviously, he's gonna have to know a little bit more about you, what's going on. I'm gonna send him the notes that I took. And
Hmm.
also, you're gonna know a little bit more about the mentorship itself, like the blueprint, what you would get, things of that nature. Obviously, if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. If it does, we'll be glad to have you on. That's kind of how I frame it. Like I frame it like as, and they get excited because I tell them that they'll get, like you said, clarity.
Hmm.
They'll get more clarity on their current, on their.
And what is your show rate?
I don't know yet. It's 4 days in. I mean, I don't know how to get that. I'm so new
You
to
don't
this.
track it?
I don't know. No, no, no.
Well, then what are we talking about? How we know if it's good, if you're smashing it or not, if we don't know the show rate? You said the show rate was your problem, right?
Yeah, but
How do we know it's a
yeah.
problem if we don't know what it is?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I had like two people not show up. And I had
How many
like
calls have you set total that are supposed to show up? Like that,
um
like their appointment has already passed the schedule date.
mm, like probably yeah, like five.
So you had 3 out of 5 calls show up.
Mm, yeah. And one of them I just got like the notification that they closed, so that's good.
Okay, so you have like a 60% show rate, and right now you have a 20% close rate. What's the average show rate across the team?
Um No, I don't think I got that.
Yeah, so before you go to anyone for help, you gotta make data-driven decisions,
Mm,
right? Because I'm not gonna say, hey, change your process to this if it's like, what if everyone else on the team show rate is 40% and yours is 60 and you're smashing everyone? Like, you know what I mean? Who
yeah,
knows?
nah, yeah.
Right? So you want to know your metrics, the team's metrics, and then you can see if you're below KPI, if you're above KPI, if you're right in line. Yes, we always want to improve and get better, right? I'm not saying like, oh, just because you're within line or you never improve. But I mean, I know there's a lot of offers that are smashing it where their average is 50, 40%. And there's a lot of offers that are doing around 70%. Anywhere from 60 to 70% is like the average that you see. Like companies at big scale, they might see closer to 50. But again, that also depends on the niche you're in. Like B2C might have a little bit less show rate than B2B because business owners just use calendars more. B2C more, if they're working like regular non-remote or jobs where they don't have to use Google Calendar. They're just kind of booking appointments and showing up off memory or off the emails. Maybe the show rate's usually a little less there. So there's a lot of factors here. But the first thing you want to do when you, like I said, get on offer, this is why I said when thing was asking, track everything, track all the numbers, know the data, and see and the more you just started too. So that's another thing. We're talking about 5 here. It's such a tiny sample size. So we don't know if you're doing great or not because your next 5 calls could show up at 100%, and then your overall is like 80 or something. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's not too much to worry about here. Just track everything, do as much volume as you can. And when we have a bigger sample size, then we can look at it and say, okay, we're either on track or we're not, and then we can make incremental changes. But when you're shooting in the dark, you have no numbers. That's when it's like you're going off of feel. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it might be low. I feel like this. I feel like that. And then you look at your numbers like, oh, wait a minute. No, I'm doing fine. Or, oh, maybe I felt like I was doing great, but I'm actually not. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Okay.
for example, and I want you to track it down to this, like, so you just made one close.
Yep.
What commission did you earn on that close?
200.
Okay. And how many dials have you done total?
I mean, I do over 150 a day.
How many days?
4.
Okay. So if you do 150 by 4 days, means you've done close, maybe a little bit more than 600 dials,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep. 600.
So, right. So, looking at your commission, you can go out and just kind of, I mean, not all the calls have been taken yet, I'm sure, but you can be like, all right, well, I make anywhere from I make like 33 cents a dial, right? And if you're like, okay, I want to make 6K this month, I want to make 10K this month, I want to make whatever this month, you just multiply that 33 cents by, or you take the amount and you divide it by 33 cents and you'll know exactly how much dials you should make this month to get close to your goal. Is it going to be perfect? No. But it's going to give you something to aim for. And it allows you to assess an offer to see like, okay, these inputs are either something I'm willing to do or something I'm not willing to do. Like if the number, if you're like, oh, I want to make 50K and the number was like, I got to make $10,000 a day, obviously we're like, okay, well, maybe that's not realistic here. Right. But yeah, know your numbers and and then we can start to make those numbers better by shifting things like getting the show rate 2 or 5% higher or getting the close rate 5% higher but again, I don't think you have like, I don't know if it's a problem yet. So I would definitely hit volume first. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, it makes sense. I got to track now. I'm so new to this, but
Put
I
together a
definitely,
tracking sheet. We've got,
yeah.
is it unlocked for everyone? I'm gonna make it unlocked for everyone. If you go in the classroom, if you're in the school group, the help and resources course, there's a setter tracking sheet, and if you just fill it out, you'll know your numbers. You just gotta fill it out.
Sorry, what did you say?
I just opened it up for all members. Here we go. So if you go, can you guys see this? Yeah. So if you go to the classroom here and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you see like help and resources.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hit this, it'll just like make you make an automatic copy of the setter tracking sheet.
Oh, okay.
And forget the team summary thing. Like you can just hide it or you can leave it, whatever. Just go to like setter 1 and then forget, delete all this. It's just an example. But for example, you put in 200 dials, put in how many conversations you have, and just do it for every day. And how many sets that you had on the calendar for that day, how many actually showed up, how many did the closer offer, and how many closed, how much cash was generated, which means revenue, and then how much cash was actually collected. So if it's like a PIF, then it's obviously they're both the same number. And then you can see like my conversation rate is 15%, my conversation to set rate is 17%, my show rate is 80, my set to close rate is 4. Like you'll just have all the numbers, and then looking at this, you can go and make data-driven decisions and say, okay, based off of this, my conversation rate's looking a little low. Maybe I'm not dialing at the right times. My conversation to set rate is a little low. Is it a lead thing because I'm just not talking to enough people that are qualified, or is it a me thing where I'm not getting to the point where I'm able to set enough people? Like, you know what I mean? You can see month over month what the data is, and then go from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, I love that. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, there's one for closer. Did I add that yet? I gotta add the one for closer, but I'll get that added for the meeting too. I'll get the closer one added. Is it Yaman? Hopefully I'm saying that right. No, you and Tyrone been waiting a while.
It's right.
What's up?
So hi guys, I'm new here. Happy to see everyone. So I have a question about the full access that grants roles. So yeah, Ty bro, I messaged you earlier today about that, and what I wanted to ask is, will it still be possible to get a solid role even if I'm from Germany? And I wanted to ask also, like a lot of offers generally need someone who has experience for like 2 years plus, 3 years plus. So will getting full access through their program will help me with that? You know what I mean? And
Are you talking about like closer college, or are you talking about
Yeah,
just getting like reps like?
no, Closers College. I'm talking about the full access.
Okay. Well, I mean, with closer college, you get more access to me, so I'll help you as best as I can. The other calls that we usually do are a lot smaller, so we'll have more focus on you and what you're working on. So all I can say is that I'll definitely help you. I'm not sure where you're at skill set wise. I'm not sure. I need to know more information about you. I'm never gonna guarantee anyone anything, but I would love to, see what you've got going on, depending on what hours you're available to work, all those kind of things, what your setup looks like, kind of how quickly you pick up the skill set. I mean, I've never worked with someone that did everything that I said for 70 to 90 days and didn't land a role. It's never happened yet. But again, you'd have to show up and do everything and just go from there.
Okay, man, absolutely. Yes. So I'm not a complete beginner, I do role play a lot, and I gathered solid experience from them. But it's not that I have 2 or 3 years experience, which like they require you.
But I mean, yeah, like there's lots of things we can do to get your first role, get some experience, get a track record, get on a better role. Like there's lots of different ways to go about it. So yeah, we'd have to talk more.
All right, man. Thank you. Looking forward.
No problem. Tyrone, what's up?
Yeah, how you doing? Appreciate it. Obviously coming into new to the space as well. A bit like Brian, completely different, never done sales before. Myself, a bit like Yemen, I'm from the UK and I've always looked at roles online, looked American based or maybe looked on Facebook and stuff. Being in a different time zone, has that ever been a problem potentially landing a role? Obviously it's availability, different times of the day. From your experience and speaking to people, is that ever a problem to try and land a role?
Again, it depends on what hours you're willing to work more than the hours you're on, So I mean, we do post UK offers on RepSelect as well, for example, but obviously there's just not as much as other offers.
Yeah.
So I've posted some Australian offers, some UK offers, stuff like that, but there's just not as much. But, if you're willing to work a different kind of schedule, then sure, you can definitely land a good role. But yeah, like if you're like, hey, I really want to do 9 to 5 my time, then definitely it's going to be a little bit harder.
Okay, and just another quick question. Obviously, I said I'm newer into it. A lot of people talk about maybe going from setter first, then becoming a closer. For me, when I was like doing more like the theory side of it and learning, obviously, closer became a bit more. It's something I want to do more, becoming a closer. Do you think that's reasonable to go down that route or become a setter first?
You can go straight into closing if you want to. You don't have to become a setter first. They're different roles. They're not necessarily like this is the upgraded version of that role. It is good to have both skill sets for sure, but you can train for closing and go straight into closing first. Setting is easier to land first. That's why most people do it, but it doesn't mean you cannot go straight into closing. It's not like a prerequisite at all.
Yeah. Just finally then, just on what you just said there, with the no experience, would you say it's easy to maybe go for setting then, and then maybe looking to go closing once you've got a track record with good KPIs and stuff like that, and being showing that you can be above show rates or close rates or whatever? Would you say it's better to go for a setting role first then?
I can't just say a blanket statement. It's better. Everyone's situation, like I want to know more about your situation and what you're looking for. Like if I'm like, hey, I have no experience and I need to land a sales role yesterday, then maybe it's better to go for a setting role. But maybe, you know what I mean? It really just depends.
Yeah.
If you're looking for part-time, it's definitely easier to get a part-time closing role than a part-time setting role.
Okay.
So like there's no one way to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Miguel.
Oh, sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, my question was in terms of 1 minute video. I have previous experience in like sales, account management, not really the remote sales realm. So my question is, will I be highlighting my past experience on there, or what does that look like? And do you have like a tutorial on that on Closer College?
Yeah, I have a tutorial on how to make a 1 minute video. It's in the landing job offers course, creating an irresistible 1 minute video, it's called. I also dropped it in the community. I'll grab the link, but yeah, you're going to highlight any experience in sales where you generated revenue. And if not, if you don't have any experience, I would focus on transferable skills that I could use. The main things that business owners are looking at when they're looking at your 1 minute video, above all else, is going to be how you look and your communication skills, right? You could have the best track record in the world, but if you don't seem like you have a good cadence, if you don't seem like you have good communication skills, I just put it in the Zoom chat, by the way. If you don't seem like you have good communication skills, then they're not going to hire you, right? So that's the primary thing that I would want to get down is how do I show up? How do I appear? And it comes down to everything. Like, what's my location? How is my video grainy? Is my audio bad or good? Is my shirt? I've heard business owners decline applicants because their shirt was wrinkly, and they're like, so look good, then sound good, and then obviously everything else. Use what you can and present yourself in the best way. It's like you're selling yourself. It's a short pitch on you, and the reason why they're looking for communication skills is because if you can't sell yourself confidently, naturally, if you sound scripted, if you look like you're reading off to the side, if you're awkward, you better than you know anything else. If you can't sell you confidently and naturally, then how can you sell my thing, naturally and confidently, right? Like, I'm just going to see your 1 minute video and I'm going to imagine this is how this person's going to pitch my service to other people. And if it's not flowing, then why even bother? That's the communication side. The look, the reason why it's so important, your location, your look, is the same reason. I'm going to take the environment. Even if you're like, I have this $1 million nice studio set up, but my 1 minute video is like just a phone shot somewhere random, that's going to hurt them because I am just going to take whatever I see in this video and I'm going to say, if the person were to jump, especially as a closer, it's not as important as a setter, but especially as a closer, I'm going to say, if I were to take this video and plug this person directly on a sales call with this environment, with this look, this camera quality, with this audio quality, is it presentable enough to be on calls? So that's what you want to think about, right? So don't, like, if you've got a desk in an office, don't take your 1 minute video from your couch just because you're like, it's a 1 minute video, it's not a sales call. Because that's what the business owner is looking at, right? They're like, okay, if this person was on a sales call right now, they're just going to assume you'd be on your couch and they're going to just pass over because they're like, oh, this guy doesn't even have a office. You don't have to have a fancy office. You don't got to have a bookshelf and some plants in the background. Just a blank wall. It's presentable. The camera's at, decent eye level, right? The distance is zoomed out to where it's just like slightly above, like a top of the chest and up. Don't zoom all the way in. Don't be sharing screen and have your little head for Loom and you're going through something else. Just like literally how you take a Zoom call with a prospect if you're having a meeting, if you're in a conversation. That's what they're looking for above all else,
Okay. I had one more question in terms of mock calls are going through the whole, the framework and all that. For my first initial one, because you said to show up with one for the next meeting, you just want to know basically like how I flow through that, or like should I go from a certain section or go through the whole thing? Because I'm gonna initially be reading, off that framework. So
Yeah, because you're gonna
not
film a
protocol.
bunch and it's gonna get better and better. I would love to just see how you present. Cadence, the look and everything like that will obviously get that good. But the first thing I want to see is what words do you use? How do you sell yourself? How do you present yourself? What do you say about yourself? Let's fix that. And then once we fix that, then you're going to rep that out so that it is smooth and natural. And then we'll make sure that the camera's good and everything's good and all that stuff is good before you actually start sending it. I mean, if you can fix all of that in one shot, sure, why not? But I mean, first and foremost, if you're like, oh, I don't want to set up everything in the background, first and foremost, let's just make sure what you're saying is good and you're putting things in the right order and all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. New Face, what's up, man?
All right. So what I was about to ask is the one web design agency I told you, it's pretty new actually, but because it's my friend and he wants me to work for him, and the offer is pretty decent. But how, again, this is very similar to what Carlos asked, but how do you recommend like a cold caller to actually, outbound, especially outbound, how would you actually make the cold caller to help them with the prospect to see value in the next call? Like, how do you do that? And to increase show up rates, obviously, is very similar to what Carlos asked, but how exactly would you go about it?
Are we talking about like we already got on the call? Now I just need to set the meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So realistically,
Actually increase show up rates. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
To increase show up rates, yeah. So again, it comes down to the value of the call, and I want to avoid any language that assumes them buying the service. Similar to how I go about like the transition for the closing call, I like to take them through like 3 or 4 steps, right? So we want to get clear on the real problem, right? Depending on if it's a B2C offer, B2B offer, if we're talking like business, sell the lifestyle is the next step, but that's going to depend on the type of offer. One might be more lifestyle focused, the other might be more business, like what's actually happening in the business focused. 3 would be grounding it in reality. And then last would be selling the call. So to kind of go through it, just like the transition, the first thing I'm going to say is, okay, so it sounds like the real problem getting in your way is this, and get their agreement, right? So I'm going to get their agreement on what the real problem is. Then I'm going to say something along the lines of, okay, well, just like before, if you want to achieve XYZ, this is what I think you need, because once you have it, this is what things look like. So again, if it's like web design, it depends what problem you guys solve. If you guys solve like web design, meaning landing pages to get more conversions, web design meaning better SEO, you know what I mean? Like once, we help you design a website, so that's very SEO friendly. Once you have that, over time, you're going to see, organic start to ramp up and then blah, 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 right? Is that kind of what you're looking for building out kind of like a website, right? Get their agreement on that's what they're looking for. Yes, awesome. Then grounded in reality is cool. Well, I'm gonna, it's gonna take XYZ to do that. So, again, your offer better than I do, but I'm gonna let them know some of the things because we're now around this high talking about the ideal. I'm gonna let them know some of the things that it might take. So I might say, well, awesome. Well, it's in order to do that, we're going to need to really understand this and really understand that, right? So could be understanding their market. It could be understanding, you know, what they can do when it comes to SEO, the content that they're able to write, whether it's like blog writing, whatever, right? So you're going to tell them what they need in order to make that happen, and then sell the call. I'm usually like, well, it is a little bit different for everyone, but if you're up for it, right? That's why I say I always like it to be like the obvious next step. Well, in that case, I'll be like, well, if you're up for it, I think what makes the most sense is if you talk to one of our advisors on the team, they can, you know, and then I'm going to big up that person, whether it's the business owner or closer, and be like, well, you know, talk to one of our advisors on the team. I think it's best to set you up with Joseph. He's an expert on web design and SEO. He's helped a lot of people scale up whatever. He's helped a lot of people get their SEO to XYZ or get XYZ more visitors, whatever. And I think that talking to him, you'll at least walk away with some really good ideas on what you guys should do next in order to get XYZ goal. Would it sound good, or what do you think about that? Right? They'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Like, awesome. Then we book up the call. Right? So it's like, hey, I think this is the problem. You agree? Well, I think if you have this, you'd be able to achieve XYZ. These are the reasons why. This is kind of what it looks like once you have that. Is that kind of what you're looking for? Yes. Okay. Well, in order to get that, we would need to first do this and do that. Is that something you're willing to do? Right. So, you know, I might confirm that they're willing to do that kind of work. Again, really depends on the offer. Like, let's say I'm selling a how to become a closer. I might say, go ahead.
So
Yep.
basically, this is how we go ahead with the cold calls at some. So basically, this was kind of inspired by a YouTuber, and that kind of worked for him. So I don't know, but the offer is extremely similar. It's we go about like, we know they don't have a website. Most of them, they don't have a website. And we
Okay,
just
so they
say,
don't have a
hey,
website at all. Cool.
yeah, so we just go about like, hey, are you guys still open? It says closed for some reason in Google. And I was just wondering, I didn't see a website or anything. And then they go, yeah, something like they say, either say we already have a website, or they say, yeah, it's down for now. What's up? And then we go straight to the pitch, and we're like, it's not a pitch, but then it's like, we actually went ahead and built you a beautiful website. If I do say so myself, would you be open to seeing that? Like,
and that's the and you guys just book it up the next call right after that, right?
Yeah, and after that, and if they're like, yeah, I'm interested, then we kind of like, okay, so we can run through this on a Zoom call, and that's how it goes. But what would you tweak in this exact kind of framework or script that would kind of increase the show up rate? Or should I?
What's the show up rate now?
It's like so let's say yesterday 8 was booked and only 3 showed up.
Yeah, so the show rate is pretty low. It's because they don't, like, you gotta give them a reason to show up, you know?
So we said we built them a website, like.
But what does that do for them?
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah.
So for example, so you kick it off, you're like, hey, saw you didn't have a might not have a website. Do you have it? They say no. Then maybe I would state like a problem or a benefit. So I'd say, you know, we've spoken to a lot of XYZ, whatever, like designers, whatever, and we saw that, you know, when they don't have a website, it leads to this problem. Is that something you like? Are you running into something like that, or no? Right? And if they say that's a risky one, but if they say, oh yeah, we're running into that, then maybe you can say, oh, tell me more about that. Well, what's it looking like from your end? And they start pouring out their problem, right? Or you can name like 2 problems and say they either are facing this or that. Are any of those coming up for you, right? And those are the problems you should solve through your website, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, you guys help with SEO, like, hey, we found that guys that don't have a website, they usually aren't getting as many organic clients reaching out as they'd like, or something like that. Is that something you've been running into over the last couple months here? And, you know, tell me a little bit more about that. They go into their problem, and then, yeah, you can pitch the call after you have an idea. But what you're pitching on the call is clarity around, you know, maybe how you guys get help or work together to solve that problem, rather than just being like, you want a website, we do websites, book a call. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we actually go ahead and say that we've already built them one, and then we actually do like build a demo template. And if they're actually interested, we'll go ahead, like on the closing call, we'll go ahead and kind of tweak some things and actually build them a website. But until then, we see the value as actually we built them a website, so they're probably, you know, we've already built one. so they actually show up. So that's the kind of idea, but I've noted what you said, and I will definitely direct that towards them.
Cool.
And can I ask one last question? If that isn't...
Sure. And then we'll get to Joseph and Julia, and then I gotta go. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what do you think is the difference between a rookie closer and the guys who are closing at 80-90% rates? What do you think the difference, apart from conviction, let's say? Like the conviction, I know you said that, but apart from that, is there anything that separates us?
Willingness to challenge and help people overcome limiting beliefs, and ability to probe and find the real problem, having real conversations instead of just like beginners are usually so focused on like the best objection handle or the best script or the best framework that this guy's selling. It's like closers are able to get on and have real conversations, not accept fluffy answers, get to the real problem, really build trust and have that person understand them by doing that. And then when it comes to either the end or somewhere in the call where they feel like they need to challenge that person's limiting beliefs, they have the balls to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. And doing all of that in like a genuine way where like it comes across like you're genuinely there trying to help, you know? Joseph, what's up?
I just wanted to share some encouragement to any newcomers that are maybe they're new to this. I've said this before, but it really does help if you just follow what Ty says. As far as I remember prior to jumping on in this school, I was struggling with getting interviews. I was struggling with that, but now because I follow what Ty said, especially like putting together that rep select profile, having interviews is no longer an issue. It's now just choosing which one's the right one for me, you know? So if you're in that same boat, if you don't have enough interviews, not on the right offer, I would highly recommend like put together that rep select profile, show up to these meetings. That helps out a lot. Go through the school, all that. That's all I got.
Is it okay if I can ask price? If I can ask what it takes to actually get into rep select? Thank you.
Well, so there's two things that I offer. So there's the Closer College membership, and then there's Rep Select, which Closer College membership is like more of these calls, access to the course, so that we can, you know, just training, support, all that stuff. Rep Select is more, you know, me and my team, we source the jobs for you guys, and you know, we send you guys multiple job opportunities as well as connect you with recruiters and stuff like that. So the Closer College training, all that stuff, they're both subscriptions. They're both low ticket subscriptions. The Closer College training, more of these calls, smaller groups, that's $67 a month subscription. And then Rep Select, all the job opportunities, working with recruiters, all that stuff, that's $12.99, or I guess $13 a month there.
$12.99. Is that what you asked? Is that what you said?
Yep.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Definitely will look into that.
Cool. Julia, what's up?
Hi, Ty. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I wanted to ask you if you had the chance to share the spreadsheet. Sorry, because I still didn't see the ones for use with diverse applications. I don't know if you remember that you mentioned this.
Spreadsheet, are you talking about like when you're like a tracker to reach out to other jobs or something? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I don't have a spreadsheet, but what I am doing is I'm building it into Rep Select, into the software.
Right.
So I'm going to build a whole job application tracking thing, because there's already one there, obviously, for when you apply to jobs on Rep Select. For people that are searching for jobs outside of Rep Select, I'm going to put a whole job tracking thing. And that, I don't know when that will be done per se, but I do know someone posted a Notion tracker. I think it's free or donation based in the community. I haven't looked at it myself, but they said it was pretty good. That might be good to take a look at. Let me see here. Yeah, someone posted not too long ago, if you just scroll through the community, someone posted like a Notion tracker for like tracking jobs and applications and stuff.
All right. I will. I'll take a look. Thank you.
Cool. Well, we will end it there. Hopefully everyone learned something. Thanks for the shout out, Joseph. You should post that in the community. But that being said, the rest of you have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys next time if you're on another one of these calls. Hopefully you learned something. See ya.
Thank you.
No problem.